easily, not even arguably, the most important piece of all of this here. So case locations is really what is going to drive all of the connections here between your case as law enforcement official and the citizens. It's going to drive, what tips they're leaving, what notifications they're getting, what cases they're assigned to and connected with to leave tips and to review. And so these case locations, like I said, I couldn't make these more important to you really of how critical these are to really everything that the system is doing. I've added in a multitude of examples here already. You'll see there are different things we can add in. The location type being very important. What is the location? Is it incident? Is it where the person, the suspect, the victim was last known or seen? Is it just an investigative interest? There is no limitation on how many case locations I can add. So as this case grows or you get more information or details, I could add, 20, 25 different investigative interests in different areas, add this in, expand my search, expand the region that I'm putting locations within.
Hey, real quick, just so, I was going to let them know right here, staying right here, just so you guys know, this was that, do that drop down on location type again, Jake. So this actually feedback from Chris and Johnny when I met with them. Actually, we have a requirement. I've talked with these guys. We're going to have a checkbox on future locations in the next round, which will say public or non-public. In other words, you'll be able to set 10 locations. Let's say 8 of them, you're fine letting the public see that you have connections there, but 2 of them may be hold back investigative interest. You just want to see if there's any connections there. You're going to be able to put that on. Only you'll see it on the map. It will not trigger any notifications. And so that'll be like a silent, a test case. Like you could put an address in and see, am I going to have any connections in this area? Save it. And then when you go public, then it would trigger if any citizens have a connection to that. So that's where not only the radius, but the public and non-public feature will come in to this later.
So I'm going to close this out because I want to show you what this looks like as a complete piece here, but I will talk through each of these pieces here. So just talk to location type. The from and to date, Morgan, do you want to talk on this? I know you added some light to this last time. The from and to dates for location.
Yeah. A lot of times the reason we're putting a lot of the stuff in is that a lot of this is for future development, but we have to put it in. So a lot of times you may be looking for people, for example, where I went to high school. Say I graduated a certain year. I don't want to say what year because you guys say, geez, you sound old. But the year I graduated from high school, it will help in terms of making connections as we start the use of artificial intelligence and start looking at what is the strength of that connection. If Johnny and I both went to the same high school and we graduated within 4 years of each other, there's a chance that when I was a senior, he was a freshman, or maybe 3 years I was a senior, he was a sophomore, something like that, right? But if we graduated 25 years apart, we'd still be connected, but the strength of that connection is less. So a lot of this will be, the other thing we're looking at too is helping citizens say, look, if law enforcement says, we think this guy was in the area, and we know because you've got other information, but between March 1st and July 31st, again, that's going to help us as we go into future development to say, as we start using the ability for AI and large language models to look at all of our data and say, okay, as a tip comes in, let's score it against this. Somebody might say, well, I'm connected to that area, but I went to high school 20 years, different from that person. That's going to help with tips when we start scoring those and use automated features to do that. So right now, it's just a range. If, for example, it could be like, take an example, a home invasion and somebody steals the car, right? Well, we know the car was stolen on July 1st. It was recovered on July 15th. So what's the date range? Somewhere between July 1st and July 15th. That's going to be critical for when that car showed up at the location it was eventually found. So you don't have to put too much emphasis on this right now. Just know that a lot of these things help the public decide, okay, what's the time frame you're looking at, but also help us in the future development of making better connections and the strength of connections as we look at scoring your connection to a case.
Great, thank you. So then moving from that, the set radius, as Morgan was just starting to talk to there, critically important here too. We've got this currently set from 1 to 25. What this is doing is it is going to set a bounding radius around the location that I put within my address search. So more simply said, if I put in 500 North Harbor Drive in Milwaukee, my set radius is doing exactly that. 25-mile radius around that location as the center point. We'll now go out there and start making any connections, finding any citizen locations within that area and making the connections to those citizens And in this example, it's a priority 1 case, it's a tier 1 case. And so that is going to send out an immediate email and notification to them as I submit this and it's approved. And it will give them that email notification that they've connected with this piece because they're falling within the 25-mile radius and that they should go review it, go into the citizen portal, review, and leave a tip. You can
Hey,
change
Jake,
this. Go ahead.
real quick, we keep saying tier 1. The other thing, just so you guys have context, except for tier 1, all emails are going to go out in a batch every 24 hours. So if there's a connection, it's going to go out. But the urgent thing, if you've got a tier 1 case like a suspect, you've got a missing person, you've got a kidnapped victim, and you want that to go out right away, a tier 1 trigger, the minute you click submit and you send it to the portal, it triggers the email. Otherwise, all other cases provide an update only once every 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll look at those emails precisely and talk through even more the details of those emails on Friday for the citizen side. But yes, to Morgan's point, there are 2 emails. If it is a priority case, it's immediate. And then every day, in the morning, there will be daily emails that are being sent out for citizens that says, these are the cases that you might be interested in. They're within these bounding pieces and areas. And so you should go review them. So they're going to get these notifications on a daily basis, whether or not they're a priority case or not. So moving on from set radius here, the address search is a drop down. So as I start typing in this, I'll create a new one here for you. What you're going to see is as I start typing, it will slowly start bringing up recommendations that I'm typing in. Now you're going to see, hey, I started typing in 3, 4, maybe 5 digits and nothing popped up. That is expected. That's the functionality of the address search. It is about as good as, the information you're giving it. You don't need to put in an entire full address. You'll see here, 3557 South 19th. It's giving me a lot of different recommendations, but it still needs enough to, function in the way to find addresses that it can return to you. So we've seen it happen a lot where maybe if I put in a 5-digit street address like this, it's going to return something a little bit funky, give it a little bit more information, and see what it starts returning. So I have a better example here. 12345 street address. It's not sure if that's a zip code in New York. It's not sure if you're looking for that as a street address or a street address here. What I'm actually looking for is an address in New York. So as I continue to give it a little bit more information, now you're seeing I'm getting closer. 101 First, still not quite New York. But if I come, maybe 6 or 7 recommendations down, this is actually the one I was looking for, South Richmond Hill. Just need to give it a little bit more information, and these will continue to populate and give you recommendations. But what is most important about this piece is as I find my address, clicking on your recommendation is what's going to accurately fill in the rest of these fields here for you and give you not just a zip code, but in the back end, we're doing zip code, so +4, 9-digit zip code, which is really helping with that entire radius and the connections to the citizens.
Here's a pro tip, guys. As we start looking at it from a geographic standpoint, you might only get a piece of information that says the only thing I knew is the dude said the guy lived at 63 South Main Street. I don't know where, don't know anything else. Well, with something like this, you could put in, do that real quick, do another one, like put in 63 South Main. And I just made that up. I have no idea, right? Now you start looking at that, you start going, I'm not sure. Now you get some investigative pathways to take to where you might say, I don't know, but we know it was in the Northeast, right? So I could be looking at Lindenville, Oakfield. If you guys think about this, this gives you the ability to put a pin in the map in that area, draw a radius around it, and say, maybe you guys are connected to this case because all we know it's 63 South Main Street, but I have no idea if it's Oakfield, New York, Lindenfield, New York, maybe it's Wisconsin, So start looking at addresses, your friend, right? You may not know, you're smiling, Jake, because I said Wisconsin, the cheeseheads. But, so start looking at this as a source of intelligence. If you don't know much else, or even with the zip code, if you just start typing in a zip code, you might be surprised as to some of the other things that pop up. So it's a really good way to, see that. So is it Milwaukee? And look at some of the different things that have the street addresses with that same zip code. So it's a great source of open source intelligence that will allow you to increase the number of probable areas that might be of investigative interest in your case.
Perfect. I think I'm going to put all my examples as Wisconsin cities and test your ability to pronounce them all. I'm kidding. But for case locations, This is not limited at all. You put as many case locations in here. What you're going to see as I get to connections later on, actually seeing the maps, is what a plan for the future is to actually have a summary view of all these case locations in one, potentially showing their different radiuses and then seeing all the connections across the board. Right now, I've got 5 case locations, which you're going to see as I go look at the connections and the maps. They're individual at this time, right? So as I go into incident location, I've got 500 North Harbor, I've got my radius. That's going to be a separate and individual map than maybe this last known or seen at 1010 North Lincoln. As I was saying there, the future scope for that, the view of that is really to have kind of an overview, and then you can dive deeper in for each case location, as you want to see it a little bit more specifically. Anything else? We're going to get to connections and the maps coming up here, Morgan, but I'm going to finish these phases off and then we'll go back to the connections. Anything else you want to say on case locations here?
Just the other thing too, I talked to Johnny about this. I've reached out to some friends at the U.S. Marshals to talk to some of the people in their behavior analysis unit. The other thing we're looking at doing is maybe giving some feedback too. If somebody is skilled in the trades, like for example, I pick on Johnny because his name ends in a valley. He's got to be mobbed up, right? So, but maybe Johnny's skill is he does tile. He's very good at doing tile, right? What are the chances he's going to stay doing something like that? So we can now do occupational profiling from a geographical standpoint. So guys, just what I'm saying is let your imagination run wild on what you can do with this. The fugitive that I keep using all the time, this Tamara Johnson, phlebotomist, right? You start looking at, if I'm thinking if maybe she's in the Atlanta area, where are some places she might be working for cash. So this expands the amount of places of investigative interest and it increases the ability to generate leads. What we're in the business of. We're in the business of generating leads. We're a marketing agency for every law enforcement agency out there. Our goal is to put as many locations in there as we can to stimulate the connections to get people to submit stuff. You never know what connection is going to bring somebody in. If you only put 1 or 2 connections in there, you've narrowed it down. But if you put 10 or 12 or 15, you've increased geometrically, exponentially, I should say, the amount of potential connections. It goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 16 to 32. It just keeps expanding. So there's some math and some statistical analysis behind this, but I'm telling you, increasing just one more location increases exponentially the number of potential opportunities to connect. That's it for me.
Great.